right, welcome to another episode of the Catholic Couple Having Fun with Faith, Family, and Friends. I'm your co-host, Bobby Fredrickson. With me, as always, my beautiful wife,
Katie Fredrickson.
I'm the convert Catholic, and she's the
Cradle Catholic.
And we have a special guest, as promised. Tonight, we have our associate pastor, Father Declan McNicholas. Say hello.
Hey. Hello. How are you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing great. And we also have another co-host. I guess the dog has decided to sit in my lap.
For the whole thing. There'll be a picture on Instagram, I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
She's looking very comfortable right now.
Well, we're not going to disturb her. She's a puppy and likes to bark, so we didn't want to.
I think all the Amazon packages that were to arrive today were already delivered, so I don't think we'll have to worry about the barking in the background.
I call your bluff.
No, the rest are coming tomorrow.
All right, I was going to say. All right, well, the main reason why we asked Father Declan to come on because we know that Lent is around the corner. It's 10 days away.
Yay.
Scary. Oh, definitely different reactions right there.
Lent's my favorite.
Yeah. Well,
I'm weird. I like makeovers. You know, like makeover shows, how you'll watch like a Chip and Joanna makeover and you'll see that house at the beginning and see what they do with it. I like that at Lent for my soul.
But I like the final product of those. The problem is you like the construction period.
Yeah. Demo day.
Demo day.
Yeah, I could skip straight to the end.
Yeah.
Oh, do you fast forward?
Yes.
I watch. I
skip
Chip
a
and
lot.
Joanna are pretty good. I like them.
I'll skip a lot of it if it's. They sometimes they go off in weird stories.
Yeah, that's
like,
true. I like their
too
stories.
soppy for you.
Yeah. Some of the construction takes too long.
Okay, first of all, what was that show that we called your emotional roller coaster back when we were dating?
Oh, with Ty Pennington?
Yeah. Where they remodel houses for impoverished families that
or
have
like
a really
veterans.
sad story or veteran or someone
I forgot
lost.
it was Ty Pennington was the host.
It's like Extreme House Makeover,
yeah,
right?
Extreme Home Makeover.
And that was a big show.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was for a while.
Yeah.
He cried at every single one, and his roommate at the time would like leave the room like every time that show came out. He's like, "Here we go, Bob's emotional roller coaster is on. I'm out."
The floodgates are opening.
He's like, "Don't make fun of me. I'm sensitive."
Oh, I also cry at Shark Tank.
Yes, you do cry at Shark Tank and America's Got Talent.
Okay, wait. Go back to Shark Tank. Like, where in that show are you crying?
Well, because like the people really like. I admire people's courage to sell everything they have to give up, because I just know what it's just like what people, how many people told them that it's a stupid idea or how many people say you can't do it. Yeah. And then when they do get a deal, it's just like to see like they've been grinding for 5 years and everything came in. So I mean, not every time, but a lot of times it just depends on the story, but usually at least one of them.
So we did that at the parish. We have a spiritual staff day on Friday, or once a month and this past one we obviously have adoration and prayer, and then we do like a team building exercise. So we did a Shark Tank version where me and Father Sammy were the sharks, but I ended up joining a team and abandoned him.
Oh, really?
And it was like, with an unlimited budget, what could we do here at St. John the Evangelist, like for Lent, and like go as crazy, like world impacting as possible. So I wanted to join a team, so I went and joined a team because that sounds like a lot of fun. I like the creative,
cool.
And then you had to like show it off to the sharks, which I was supposed to be one of the sharks, but anyway, we showed it off to the pastor. So like I got real creative. I made like a PowerPoint on my iPad real quick, like took like terrible pictures of the pastor of Father Sammy, like put them in our PowerPoint in different points. I was like, only I could get away with that.
That's such good team building, though. Can you disclose any of it?
Of like what we did?
Mm-hmm.
So my group, we were going to make an app. And we were going to have Pope Francis sell the app on his like Wednesday address, his Angelus address. He was going to be the one to pitch it. Oh yeah, for sure. And then we had private jets where we were going to fly people all over like to the Holy Land, and I think we were going to have a huge Christian concert at St. John's to culminate, I think, in Pentecost. It was going to be like
that sounds pretty awesome.
But when you have no budget, right? You can do whatever you want.
Exactly. But I like that because it shows. Does doing something like that, though, kind of boil down some things that could actually potential happen? Like, almost like boiling it down to some intentionalities, right?
Yeah, I think so. And also, like, the whole point of it was to see, like, so we do a lot with strength finders at the parish, right? Like, I mean, we've all done those different tests and stuff, but, like, your strengths, so, like, different people's strengths on the team, like, as you're doing a creative project, right? Like, and just trying to show those things, like, to show the value of teamwork and everything else.
I like that. I kind of want to do that with my teachers. Like if we have an unlimited budget, what would you do for education at the school, right? That's kind of cool.
And then they have to pitch it to you.
Yeah.
That's the sharp.
That's kind of fun.
And then Bob can be in the back crying.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh.
I've come to terms with my, because I was so the opposite for a long time. Like I hid all that. And so the floodgates.
Yeah, you cry pretty easy now.
Yeah, which is cool.
Okay,
it's all right.
You're in touch with it.
Yeah, it's all right.
I always, this is me. I've never said this. I don't think in public, but I always cry. Have you ever seen those videos soldiers surprising their kids?
Oh, those are the best.
And they go show up at their kids' school
I
or something.
cry at those also.
Yeah, you come through on social media. I'm like,
yes.
Oh man, I'll be in my room just bawling. Sometimes. I'm like, okay, I need to stop.
It's just, I don't know. There's something about
the kids' reaction.
The kids, especially it's they've been gone for 2 years.
Oh, for sure.
I'm I know what I feel like. I'm gone for a long weekend. Mm-hmm. And it's when I come home, I miss my kids. So I can only imagine, and then worrying crazy for soldiers, for 2 years.
Oh, for
you don't
sure.
know what's going on.
On both sides, both the soldier having to leave, the man leaving his family or the wife, right? And then the kids not seeing their father or mother
and not knowing that they're going to turn around and see them. Is
for sure.
Of it. Yeah. That's
Yeah, so now you guys get to
Lent.
Lent. Well, yeah, so Ash Wednesday's coming up. I always like the reminder of the what do they say? It's the second next at Christmas and Easter. Ash Wednesday is the biggest time that people who normally don't go to church show up for some reason. They find it necessary, even though
it's not,
even though it's not an obligation, and that they don't come every Sunday, but they find there's something that's calling them to go. Maybe it's just tradition or how they grew up. But I like the reminder of, the ashes on your head and saying, dust to dust, and dust you shall return.
Mm-hmm. I have a friend. So here, Father, you can hear me out. Maybe you can help me with something. I have a friend who's Catholic, but who never gets the ashes because he says in the reading where it says don't, when you fast, don't let people know.
Anoint your head, wash your face.
He says they literally say not to show what we're doing, but then we show what we're doing. He's like, I'm sorry, no, that's hypocritical. The reading literally says don't advertise it, and we walk around, we advertise it. He's like, I can't. So he'll go, but he never gets the ashes. And I never know. I stumble upon a response to that.
Yeah, no, I love it because I think it is kind of ironic that we read that reading every Ash Wednesday and then we do that. I think first and foremost it's for ourselves, right? When you come up in the line and receive the ashes, you're reminded for your own mortality. Remember, you are dust, and to dust you shall return. And so, there is that anointing of the ashes. But in the same way, I don't know, we wear a cross around our neck or we do all those other things. I think it's something, too, where it's just culturally, even in America still to this day, I don't think you're not going to be, look at there's a super Christian going around with his ashes because, as you were saying, Bob, right, everybody gets ashes on.
Right.
Yeah, not everybody, obviously, but...
Well, then, too, it's also...
So than go
but it's also in the shape of a cross. It's okay...
It's a witness.
Yeah, it's you're going to die, but I have a savior. It's
I know what all of it means, but I see where he's coming from with the readings and tying it together.
I get it, but it's impossible to not let your left hand know what your right hand's doing. That's impossible. It's you can't divide your. It's an ideal. You know what I'm saying? It's
he is an idealist.
Yeah, I mean, some
of
the
stuff
stuff
like that though. Sometimes,
yeah,
sometimes. No, I'm
just a stickler, man.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean,
and every year we have that conversation.
But it also says, if you want to prayer, go into your house, into your room, lock the door, so you can never pray. You know what I'm saying?
Public. Yeah. So you're saying it's talking more in hyperbole, to just still don't be. I think it's more how holy you are.
Yeah, I think it's more of the discernment of your heart.
Or I think too, we look at the scriptures, right? The Pharisee or the Pharisees who's praying, right, saying, "Thank you, Lord, for not making me like the rest of humanity." And I'm so, and then the sinner in the corner saying, "I'm sorry." Kind of well, what is the movement of the heart? What are my desires truly? Is it to get ashes so I can show people how holy I am, or is it
I went to Ash Wednesday? That's true.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I would say it's more of that interior discernment too on our own parts because it's not just the show.
And isn't that an Old Testament practice though, that if someone was in some kind of type of repentance for what they've done, they would put ashes on themselves. Yeah. So it is kind of it is a practice that was done by the Jewish people too.
Yeah.
I'm just getting on my ammo line.
Yeah.
For the next conversation.
You have 10 days.
There's that scene in The Chosen where Nathaniel, after that build, he was the architect. Remember? They take some liberty. I don't know what Nathaniel actually was, but remember, he was like an architect, and the building fell, and some people got hurt, and then he was sitting by the tree, and he took his plans of this whole architecture stuff, and he burned it. And he was sprinkling it on his head like this, because that was
in repentance.
Yeah,
for
like
what
repentance,
happened.
ashes
like
and
a
sackcloth.
punishment to himself.
Yeah, and that's when he's like, I saw you by the tree. And that's how he called him. He's like, oh, you are the Messiah.
So that does take that Old Testament practice and makes it New Testament by putting us in that shape of the cross. All right. I need to write this all down because that's my next conversation.
But then we have to throw it in. The cross is really an American experience because, like, if you go to Rome or something, they just put it on your head. Like, they just sprinkle it. Yeah, on your hair. Yeah.
Wait. Only in America do they put?
I don't know if it's only in. I don't know if it's only in America, but I know at the Vatican you'll just get it sprinkled in your hair. Which is more Old Testament because we look at like Jonah, right?
Yeah.
And it was like you would sprinkle it on your head, and it wasn't a sign. So that goes back to your friend that it's not necessarily a sign that you're.
Somebody did that at the monastery, I think, one time for me.
No, you had to do it last year because of COVID.
Yeah.
Everybody got that sprinkling, and we all thought it was so weird.
But it's actually it's in line with what Rome does. Yeah.
Get out of here.
Which is interesting because now I'm thinking out loud now, but with your friend, right? Like, so it's an American or somewhere where you put it as a sign of like putting it as a cross, but you would never know if it's just sprinkling your hair just a little bit. Nobody would know.
So true.
But what if you don't have it here?
Then you're like,
it would just fall
Father
over.
Jack put the most gigantic one on your big bald head that one year.
That is awesome.
Yeah, he thought it was funny.
Oh, wow. All the from like the middle of your head down.
Please come to one of my masses this year. They come to my line.
Right. I believe Wednesday when we get back from probably 6 a.m. Well, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Yeah, so Ash Wednesday, it's the second most popular. When I read that, I couldn't believe it because I was thinking
second most to Christmas.
Christmas and Easter.
Christmas and Easter next month.
So third then.
Yeah, to those because I was always thinking like Mother's Day is probably close to that.
Oh, I could see
a lot of people because their moms ask them for
Palm
Mother's
Sunday
Day.
Is another huge one.
Okay,
and so like as priests, we always joke. It's like whenever we give something out other than Jesus, like the Eucharist, right? Like when we give out palms or ashes, like everybody show up.
And the ashes are the palms.
Look at that connection.
Line up around the block for palms.
That's awesome.
Oh, I didn't even realize that Palm Sunday was a big one.
That's it. Yeah, I don't know if it's because it's Palm Sunday and like, we're going to get palms, or if it's just because it's the week leading into Holy Week and people are getting in that mindset, right? Like, we always see an uptick in mass attendance when it comes to getting close to Christmas and Easter. Because people are like, oh, shoot, I've been a bad Catholic. I need to start getting back into the routine.
Huh. I didn't know. I didn't even think about that. Wasn't on my radar. Cheesters, Christmas and Easter, but I didn't know.
Yeah, creasters.
Yeah.
So then you have the other one, which, throwing out the other term, is the Judas Shufflers. Have you ever heard that term?
No.
It's the people who leave right after communion.
Oh,
Judas left first.
Yeah. I had a friend call that the Judas exit.
Oh, the Judas exit.
Like, I got to be somewhere at whatever time. I'm just going to do a quick Judas exit after Mass. So I'm by him and I'm like, Judas exit? What are you talking about? Yeah. And I put
Judas
two
exit,
later.
the Judas Shuffle. I
never heard that one either. We're learning so much here.
We're here to inform.
Yes.
That's what the people want to know.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
So we want to talk a little bit about Lent in general and some of the practices, some of the things, our experiences of what we do practically. But we were talking a little bit before, Father Declan was sharing some of the stuff of what his family would do, which was interesting, some ideas on, things to do, to practice.
Well, Father Declan, you come from a really big family, and you're a very young priest. It's very exciting.
Yeah.
A very energetic priest, right? So you're one of 8.
Yeah.
There's 8 total in your family.
Yeah.
Where are you?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest?
Yeah, I'm the oldest of 8. So
I didn't know you were the oldest.
7 brothers and sisters. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what's the? So you're the oldest.
Mm-hmm.
How old is the youngest?
Yeah, so I'm 29, and my youngest brother, he is 16.
Oh.
He's getting his license soon, actually. Yeah.
Get out of here.
So I have, we're all like a year or 2 apart, spread apart. No twins.
Wow.
Way down.
Wow.
And then so I have 2 brothers in high school, 2 siblings in college, 2 siblings in the military, both officers in the Army, and then wildland firefighter, my sister.
Yeah, that's amazing.
When you look at her, you're like, really? But then all of a sudden she's now more ripped than I am. I'm like, okay.
So, wow, that is a cool family though. So you guys would do things together as a family for liturgical seasons, right?
No.
So Lent, was that a thing in your house? Like, would you all have to tell your parents what you're giving up, or like how did it work?
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, it wasn't like, oh, you have to line up and now tell mom and dad what you're going to give up this year. Yeah, like
sign up
we're all going to line up, and now mom's going to go down the row and ask, what are you doing this year?
Yeah, right.
No. So we would do, obviously, things as individuals, and this is, maybe when we were younger and stuff, it was a little more a discussion based with my parents, like, maybe you should be giving this up. But,
I've had those.
Yeah, have you had those? Yeah, like, you know what, you're going to be giving this up this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But as a family, we always, the thing we would give up, so the prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, the three aspects of Lent. So fasting is usually, like, as Catholics, right, we consider that, like, when we give something up, it's in that kind of category of fasting. We would always, as a family, give up dessert. So we never eat desserts then during Lent. So my mom,
Mom didn't have to make any then.
Yeah, it was.
Nice.
But my mom likes to bake, so she actually enjoys baking. At least she says she does. No, she does.
Okay.
So we give that up, and then we would do. So it's interesting. We would. I remember one year. I can't remember. This was maybe 1 or 2 years we did this. My dad got a bunch of nails, and like if we did something wrong, I think it was we had to take a nail and we put it we put in like a basket or something. It was us nailing Jesus to the cross from our sins. And then the opposite, I remember then during Advent, we would take like straw when you did good deeds. You put straw. That's a little more.
We do that.
Oh, you do
it?
Yeah.
Do that.
We did the nails. We're hardcore in the McNicholas household.
Well, that's why you have women firefighters and all these, people in the army. So
yeah, people come to me and they're like, "Oh, your parents must be so proud of you as a priest." I'm like, you have no idea. I'm pretty lame compared to my siblings. Brother who's a Green Beret, a sister who's an army nurse, and my sister is fighting the wildfires. And I look like nothing.
Oh my gosh, I feel like there should be a comic book of your family.
Oh gosh.
Well, that is kind of hardcore, the nails. That reminds me of the Mel Gibson in Passion of the Christ. The only scene he's actually in it, the only scene is his hands are the ones driving the nails into Jesus'.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Oh, I never knew that.
That was his contribution to the movie, was that it's my sins.
Driving. Oh, wow.
My students, every year at Bishop Knoll, I would have my freshmen create Stations of the Cross YouTube videos for the whole school, and we would have to have it ready before Ash Wednesday, so that was our big release, right?
Okay.
But I let them they had to follow a script, but they could have complete artistic license to display that in any way they want. They filmed it. So I had this one group that they put all of their hands on the hammer together and showed the nail driving in. They kind of took that. I don't think they knew that about Mel Gibson. I actually saw them filming it, and because I let them go anywhere they wanted to and throughout the building, and let them, film. So I'm just walking around like a crazy person, seeing what everybody's doing. And I was watching them do that, and I actually ended up telling them, like, "Did you know that Mel Gibson?" And even like, "Whoa!" I'm like, so you guys are right up there with artistic freedom there. But what was very cool is that they were a very diverse group. So, like, the colors of their skin tones were all different on that hammer. It was a very
so you get to see touching, like, all humanity kind of represented.
It was a very touching. That was one of my favorites.
And then all the school, they had like QR codes around the school.
Yeah, so
and
we posted the stations throughout the whole building, and they all had QR codes, and you just use it and it would bring up the station, and you should be able to still walk them.
So you would go from one station around the school. Oh, okay, that's actually
and
really
I had them
clever.
pick their favorite picture from their station, and that would be what would be almost like a thumbnail on like the piece of paper with the QR code, and that group had their with the hammer. It was just so good. So then after they did that, every year I would challenge kids to outdo the year before, right? I'm like, I don't know how you guys are going to outdo this one. And I would always show it because it was so good. But yeah, that was always one of my favorites. So that kind of ties that in together, that whole, it's not something that happened 2,000 years ago. It's something that, yes, it happened then, but he's also outside of space and time, and he was taking on everything we ever did in that moment.
Yeah, I think it's so cool because I think like we look at Jesus and he's not the only person who ever has been crucified, right? Like people are still getting crucified today, right? There's still martyrs today. So it's not like the brutality of what he did by dying on the cross, but rather because simultaneously the spiritual suffering of taking on all our sins. And that was the real sacrifice or suffering that he went
Everything that
through.
Anybody ever did before,
Then
during,
and
after. That's a lot. There's a lot going on.
It's a lot.
So,
Thank goodness.
Yeah, I'm
Jesus
kind
saved us.
Yeah. It's different for me. Like I pray the Divine Mercy every day, but I always, I don't know, I do the sorrowful mysteries every day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I reflect on it like so much. Like, I don't know, I kind of enjoy, like, just because I just try to, as a convert, I like to constantly remind myself of how bad of a sinner I am. That, like, for the mercy, like, only by God's grace have I turned my life around.
What is that called? Oh, happy fault, or oh, happy. What is that? That's like an old spiritual hymn.
Happy day.
No. Jesus love. No. Oh, happy. Like, not celebrating the fact that we sin, but like because
of our sins, we have a
savior.
Yeah.
So, that is some kind of like old spiritual hymn, like a Southern song or something.
Well, like even when I meditate on the mysteries, I kind of do it like, I don't know, so I would say would it be like Ignatian, where I'm like, every time it's different. Like if I'm meditating on the scourging at the pillar, sometimes I'm whipping Jesus. Sometimes I'm watching. Sometimes I'm like next to his mother. Some days I'm, just in the crowd, and I try to visualize it, I mean, we obviously get the movies, so you can kind of get those, but I try to use my own imagination, and I think it just helps me throughout the, not just in Lent, is that just to always try to keep that, not that we have to dwell that we're so wretched sinners, but just because it helps humble myself, because, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, and,
Pride's the core of all sin, right?
Yeah.
So if we can diminish our pride. It's that you brought up the whole like Ignatian or imaginative prayer stuff. I've been doing that with the 8th graders at St. John the Evangelist that go on their Mondays. We do the scriptures and stuff. And it's interesting because some of them are really getting into it. I've been 2 or 3 weeks now. Like they're like, oh yeah, I was like an apostle this week, like hearing Jesus. So it's so it's really cool. Like they're presenting to them like this is a way to pray, and then them able to enter into it. It's like it's a new way to pray for so many people that never do that.
Yeah. Well, some people are just visual. Some people are rather, But for me, it just helps. It helps me focus, I guess.
But it helps you remember the story too. And then you're also able to see it in so many different perspectives that you might not have ever thought about before when you do things like that. I love the Peter walking on water, right? But I'm always Peter. But sometimes you have to think, like, what about the other guys in the boat watching that would happen? And then
who do you think you are, Peter?
Kind of changes the story. Yeah, exactly. It changes the story for you a little bit, right?
No, definitely.
I'm really into the prodigal son right now, the story of the prodigal son. Like sometimes like I'm the older brother, it's like self-righteous, like how dare you? He's like been off, and like, or like somebody who's invited to the party and like kind of like witnessing through the window. Like some of those things are so fun. Like it's so fun to think like, how would they experience this?
Yeah. I heard I think it was Father John Ricardo when he talked about the story, that why the father runs to him, because like the city would have been like on a hill basically, and like it's like what they call running the gauntlet. Like he came before the people in the town would have kind of came after him, kind of like he was like protecting.
Like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I forgot how he explained it.
Running. Oh, I've never heard that
he's
before.
running to him before the people in the town could get to him, and like like that's what they call like running the gauntlet.
Yeah, like say shame. How? Like,
yeah, basically, or whip him, or stuff like that.
Throw tomatoes at him.
Yeah.
Is that where that comes from? Maybe.
No, well, running the gauntlet.
Isn't it just like
running the gauntlet comes from that's from the Mayans.
What?
I just watched on the plane home from the Alpha conference. I watched Apocalypto for the first time. Well, because I went down the rabbit hole on Mel Gibson stuff, because Mel Gibson's working on the Resurrection, part 2.
I've learned so much this evening already.
Yeah, so Apocalypto, he did Apocalypto, and I'd never seen it, and I was interested in it. It's a brutal movie, but it was good. But there's a part in it where they like run the gauntlet, which is like you got to run, and there's throwing spears at you and all this stuff. And if you get to the end,
did something wrong in the community would rally together to punish you. Is that what that means?
In this story, they kidnapped a bunch of people, turned them into slaves, and then they sacrificed a bunch of the people in the Mayans, and then and it ended up being like an eclipse, and then they let some of them go, but they thought it'd be fun game to have them, like, if you run from here to get to this cornfield, that you're free. But people are just lined up throwing stuff and beating them. Oh yeah, it's brutal stuff, and this kind of stuff, and it's very well done. It was like, I think they said it's probably going to be one of the last movies where they had like an actual like set production, like it was like over the top, like Ben-Hur, like how they used to make movies. Yeah. It wasn't everything was
CGI.
Like it was a set.
Or wasn't CGI.
It was a big budget, yeah. But yeah, he is making the Resurrection right now.
Which Ben-Hur, that's a good movie for Lent.
Oh, I love Ben-Hur.
I really watch it. It was always just so long. I would lose my attention as a kid, but like I remember watching it more as an adult and being like, this is a really good story. I didn't realize this was Christian.
I'll be honest, I can't remember the whole movie because I think I probably watched it as a kid and fell asleep or something. You know, like I should probably.
I just remembered the chariot scenes as a kid. That's all you
the action.
Saw the action.
I remember
it was like leopard.
Well, it was before. Yeah, it was before I was Catholic or Christian. I remember because at the very end is the part where the blood from
the blood from Calvary seeps down into this leper colony, right?
Yeah,
and cures Ben-Hur's sister and mom.
Yeah,
it's very
I need to watch this movie again.
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
And the guy who wrote Ben-Hur is from Gary.
What?
And he was a Civil War general or something like that. I forgot what his name is.
From Gary, Indiana?
Yes, there's a high school named after him. It's closed now. I forgot what his name is. But yeah, he's from Gary.
And he wrote Ben-Hur.
He wrote Ben-Hur. He was in the Civil War. He was like a colonel or something in the Civil War. I'll look up his name, but yeah, I forgot.
And it's always on around Easter.
Lou Wallace, I think.
Oh, okay.
Lou Wallace, I think is his name. Yeah.
See, I just always love to watch the Ten Commandments during Lent.
Moses, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a good one.
Yeah.
So that's some things for Lent. So during Lent, watch
Ben-Hur, Ten Commandments.
Well,
man, this is a real penitential season.
Right. Big blockbuster movies.
Can I get popcorn? Or no, that's what I'll sacrifice. I won't have the popcorn.
Oh, well, that is tough. How do you not have popcorn with a big movie like that? But that is, so last year I did it. This year, I'm not as good as last year with following all of the rules of the Magnify 90, which is like Exodus 90, but it's for women.
Okay.
And so I started it on January 17th, and that is a lot of mortification. Like that is no television unless it's religious, no music unless it's religious, no social media, and no alcohol, no makeup on Wednesdays and Fridays, no sugar. And then it adds on other, prayer things and stuff like that. And I just I did it very strict last year. This year I did start it, but this week and next week I'm kind of laying off. But I was thinking about becoming more strict for Lent.
Like for the 40 days of Lent.
For those 40 days, right.
Do you have to do the cold showers and everything?
No, it doesn't do that stuff.
That's so I've never done Exodus 90 because of the cold showers.
He doesn't do it. That's
why
you don't do
75
Oh, because you did the 75.
I did the 75 hard instead, which was like instead of doing a 2-minute shower cold, I did 45 minutes outside.
Yeah, I was gonna say you had to do that. We're outside every day workout
and inside
but
2 workouts a day. Yeah, but last year,
I hope so. The neighbors would have a lot of questions. I'm sure.
Last year, last year was cold though. Like this year hasn't been really cold at all. This year, like
we had that huge snowstorm.
Yeah, but it was like.
Lady loved
but
it.
there was like a week or two where it was like below 0. Mm-hmm. It was like, but I enjoyed it though. I really did.
He hates the cold.
There's something. Oh, really? Oh,
yes.
See, this is my kind of what I like the cold. But I think especially as men, like there's something like instead of necessarily cutting things out, like adding to, like, hey, we're gonna go out and like add to, like do something more for Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. We're gonna do this for Jesus, and I think there's something. That's
I guess that was part of what I wanted to get into. Is like, okay, yeah. A lot of times we give up something, but we should find things to put in that place. Like we give up TV every year, so it's like,
is that a family?
No, the kids.
Well, that's what. So, like with Mag 90, I would only watch TV if it was something that I watched with the kids. And that to me was like a nice bonding thing. It wasn't just me zoning out in the TV. It was something that we would watch together, and it turned into more like something we did as a family.
Yeah.
Same thing with. I did Mag 90, we would always give up TV. Same thing. The only thing we would do was watch TV with the kids. And it did end up being, but less. We would do more like board games or
be more intentional about. But so instead, but that's kind of adding too. Instead of just saying like we're going to cut TV out, it's going to be more intentional than family time or communal time. Like
we did a lot of the first year we did a lot of reading. I mean, I read a lot anyways, but we were getting like you were sitting down and like it was quiet, and then the kids would be reading or reading to the kids and doing spending. So a lot of not just getting rid of things, but adding something. It's like a both end.
Guy, when the cable thing shatters, and all the people just look at each other, and then they start talking, and then they start picking up books. So there's other things to do than watch TV. Like sometimes when people hear what we do for Lent, they're like, how do you, it's really not that hard. And then once you're off of it, especially social media, especially scrolling through your phone and once you're off it, it's liberating. That's why I love Lent. It's liberating to me.
It's definitely one of those things. Like first couple days hard,
yes,
because you have to like it's almost like rewiring your brain.
It is.
No, this year for sure. It's definitely I'm the social media. Like so, I'll post things like especially for like religious things like my homilies or ththings like I'll still do that, but then the scroll it's so
going
hard.
down the rabbit hole.
Yeah,
I'll spend too much time because it's like I have 15 minutes and then I'm just scrolling. I was like I could have read a chapter of a book or something, right? And especially like with Kindle and everything else, it's on my phone anyway. Like instead I go to Facebook or Instagram.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what we usually delete the apps on our phones. So like if we have to post something, like I'll keep the Catholic couple Instagram, but I'll erase Facebook, Snapchat, and
if you erase Snapchat, if you're not on Snapchat for a long time, your pictures will disappear. That's why I had to keep it on the phone, but I hid it from the home screen.
Oh, that's what I'll do.
So it wasn't.
I'll put it in. Oh yeah, that's what I did. I put it in a box with a big X on it, didn't I?
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Like put it into like
so it's just another layer to say
no, but to put an X on there is like the title of it. So like no,
don't
can't do that.
Get on that.
It's your past still slapping your hand. Don't go there.
Right.
Yeah. No, but there is something, especially, as you guys do the Catholic couple or things like that, where there is good that we need to be in that space, but just when we are consumed by it ourselves.
Yes, unfortunately, that's...
Right. But something to say about social media that, we look at social media sometimes to stay connected to people, right? But in reality, we're not. We're voyeurs of each other. But when you separate yourself from social media, you have to intentionally go out of your way to connect with someone. So I find myself texting my friends more often, calling my friends more often, because I already know what you did last night because I saw your Snap story. I want to find out what's going on with you, and I actually reach out more when I'm not on those social media things because you just feel like you're already updated. You don't really need to talk to them, but
and then you have more, probably a deeper conversation than you would have ever seen on their
because you only
story.
see their highlight reels, right?
The best part of their life.
Exactly. Yeah. And then too, what I did, I did this one Lent, and I'm going to definitely do it again, is I picked, I didn't pick them ahead of time, but it ended up being 40 people because it's 40 days, that I would just pray in the morning, and whoever came to my head first, I'd text them three things I love about them.
Oh, I really like that idea.
Yeah, and so many responded, you don't know how much I needed this today because I'm going through this, and it would be sometimes very random people, which was cool,
So
it was just
for 40 people, it'd be a lot of people you don't see on a normal basis too.
Right.
So did you preface it before you texted like I'm doing this for Lent? Because otherwise I feel like if I got a text and I'm like what is going on?
I made myself a generic template
that you could just
where
fill
I just
in,
said, hey, so for Lent, I'm picking, I'm praying and whoever comes to mind, I'm going to say 3 things I love about them. So here's 3 things I love about you. So then that way it wasn't weird. And some of them, because it is weird. And
even if it's nice, it's still weird.
It's nice. It's super awkward.
I think especially if it's somebody you don't talk to regularly, be like, I need to call it, like, what's going on with her life? Like, is she okay?
Like, a diagnosis.
Yeah, like, what's going on? Yeah, like,
but that is true, though, when we are faced with those kinds of realities, or when someone passes away, is when we say all the great things about them. Do we ever really tell someone those things to their face? Because it's awkward and it's cheesy,
Yeah.
So it is kind of safer to do it in a text message. I think I didn't even have their phone number, and so I emailed them.
Wow.
But it was the fruit from that was like tenfold.
Mm-hmm.
When you do things like that, you don't realize how much you get back in return. And I had some people like, I'm so doing this. This is such a great idea. So I just thought, wow, think about if everybody else did 40 people, how many people that you could just impact by just telling them how you feel about them and the things you admire about them.
And
you don't talk like that, know?
But in that also, it was a prayer. So you were combining doing good, kind of like building someone up, and by putting yourself in, to the
me,
Holy
I thought
Spirit.
of it as I'm giving up social media.
Yeah.
And I'm going to replace it with actually trying to be intentional about connecting with someone that's in my life.
But doing it first through prayer. That's the big thing about it.
It's not just a human connection. Yeah. It's purely, it's just
and that's why some of that
could just be pay it forward, right?
Yeah,
and then there's no God in it.
Yeah, and those are great things. Like, don't get me wrong, but that's not what we're here for.
That's probably where that fruit, a lot of the fruit would come from, is because that person, they needed it that day, and that's how God led you to be that person for the day for them.
But I really like too, because so often, I think about all the people we intercede for in our prayer, but they never know. So I think, in just a very generic way, I wouldn't do this for every single person, right? But say, I prayed intentionally for you today because,
right.
Yeah, and I think it's good for people to hear that sometimes, that I'm not alone.
Right.
Somebody is here praying for me.
Or they don't even realize, I'm struggling with something. I really needed that.
Yeah. Yeah, and you had no idea either.
Yeah, the same thing with anything that's how I would teach Lent to my students is when you give something up that costs money, that's part of your almsgiving should be. So if I give up coffee, how much total, all the things that I would spend, how much would I spend total, give that to a charity.
Time.
Same thing, time.
Yeah.
If I'm spending all my time on social media, give my time to sending that text message to people. Anything that I'm giving up, replace it with something that I can give. So your fasting and your almsgiving should be like best friends. That's how I said it to my students. They're best friends. And I'm like, what one does, you replace it with the other. Like you said, you take something away, put it into something else, so that it is more attractive. I'm doing something instead of just I'm taking all these things away.
Yeah, I mean, great. Give up sweets, give up coffee, but is it going to transform your life after 40 days? Probably not, because you're going to just go right back to it.
Exactly.
Well, any St. John the Evangelist parishioners that are listening, I think I just stole all this stuff from Katie for my homily now for Ash Wednesday. So just as a heads up, I really like that. I really like best friends, fasting and almsgiving, that idea, what you gave up. That's awesome. Yeah, they're best friends. Definitely taking that. Thank you.
And you can only achieve those things through prayer. So they're kind of
all three triplets.
Yeah,
it's like the Trinity.
One can't exist without the other. What?
Yeah.
I love it.
Nice. Well, the other thing I was saying is the fasting side of Lent, and I was thinking. So I often do obviously meat on Fridays, but then traditionally in the church we give up fasting would be Wednesdays and Fridays are fasting days in the church. Traditionally, definitely Fridays, but also Wednesdays.
Yeah, and with the Mag 92.
Yeah, but I'm not good at fasting. I'll be honest. I get really cranky. So I've done it before. I'm going to be very intentional this Lent on Wednesdays and Fridays.
So are you just going to eat one meal?
Yeah, I'll probably do a small meal for lunch and just call it for the day. That's usually what I do.
Oh, okay.
For my fasting days.
Okay.
Well,
that's a typical Tuesday for me, rather.
Yeah,
You're intense.
Yeah,
I can't do that. Yeah.
She's been doing it for...
As long as you don't chew gum or anything that's...
It takes a while. You start...
Put milk in your coffee.
Well, you start at 12, then you work your way up to 13 hours, then 14. Mm-hmm. You don't just start 20 hours.
Yeah.
You build up to it. But she's...
Because you fast pretty much every day, right?
Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
But again, I need to be more intentional, and Lent is my time to do that, because when I am doing it for something other than myself, it's easier to keep myself in check.
It's not just for a diet,
right.
When you're intentionally doing it.
Well, and I think actually that we should, in a second, we need to talk, we're not to fast for diets.
We're not trying to lose weight by the time, I can't wait till it's over my six-pack,
This might be a nice side effect, but that's not the reason.
Exactly. And I think that when I first started fasting, that is how I started, was Lent. I wanted to see how intermittent fasting went, and I was like, I want to do it for something other then.
So that's how you got into intermittent fasting.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you want to hear about that, we have a podcast episode. You can go back to one of our first ones. We did a whole episode on it.
This dog is on his lap. It's sniffing the microphone and getting all...
She's all over the place.
All in the mix.
Well, this way she's not barking, so I'm trying to...
True.
If not, you'd be hearing the barking. So
yeah, right.
She's a big girl, too. It's funny seeing this 50-pound dog on Mommy's lap.
On her hind legs, she's taller than Avery. Yeah. What is she, like 3, almost 4 feet tall? Like if she was on her hind legs, she's a long dog. Anyway, sorry, sidetracked. Lent. Okay,
that was a squirrel moment.
Yeah. Squirrel. So, what other good practices? What else were we gonna?
Well, what for me, what really got me going to, I started. What is this? Maybe 6 years ago. I started adding one mass a week. So So for me, it started with doing Wednesday mornings. I started doing Wednesdays. Then I just did
like a Wednesday Friday thing.
Yeah. So I did.
Well, you picked Wednesday because it was.
It was in the middle of the week because I needed. I was like, I need something halfway. Like by Sunday, I'm ready to. Saturday, I'm ready to choke somebody basically. So I needed something.
Jesus in the middle.
Yes.
Honestly, I think our Protestant brothers and sisters have it right because Wednesday night's a big church day for them, or church evening.
Really?
Yeah, it's like for Bible studies usually, or like it's more the educational side of things for a lot of Protestants.
And it makes sense because it
halfway through.
It's halfway through, and so that's how I started adding, one extra mass, or then I was adding in like more intentional like adoration time or something like that. That's how I started, and I know you did getting up early.
Yeah, I gave up hitting the snooze button one year.
And then to create time.
The heroic minute, as St. Jose Maria calls it. Yeah,
I like
the heroic minute.
I need it because I am the worst snooze button hitter of all time. I could probably hit a snooze button. If I set an alarm at 5 a.m., I could probably hit it till like about 8. I'm a... Oh, no, not yet.
I'm anti-snooze.
As
soon as it goes,
I'm with Bob.
I jump up out of bed and I just get going.
So a great practice for Lent, actually, with that, like if you are not a snoozer, or if you are, right, is you get up out of bed, immediately get up and kiss the floor and say, "I will serve you, Lord, today."
Ooh.
You start your day off right.
I'm doing it. Oh my gosh, I said it out loud.
You have to do it.
Now you have to do it. I'm going to hold you to it. Well, actually, I'm gone before you really get moving in the morning.
And I purposefully just set 2 alarms. I do the 5 o'clock and the 5:11.
That's not a heroic minute, then.
And a heroic 11.
Yeah, so then, was it last year? That's been about, was it last year's? Yeah, so then it led into one Lent. I started going, I'm like, I'm going to go to Mass every day.
Yeah.
And then it just...
So that is 2 ways to look at it. If you're looking at the things that you're doing, you're giving up for a short amount of time, or there's other ways that you can think about either taking something away or adding something to that actually end up being a part of your life. And you don't let it go after 40 days. Like me with fasting, you with going to Mass. Like there's certain habits that you begin to create. I think that's the genius of Catholicism sometimes. They know human nature.
I was going to say, isn't it like 40 days is like psychologically is kind of like it takes 40 days or something close to that to make a habit, right? So it's like kind of perfect.
Exactly.
And 40 is such a big number throughout the Bible. From
it's complete, right?
Noah and Moses.
Time of trial?
Purification. Trial, Through trial, purification.
7's perfection. That's the number there.
Well, the one thing that no one ever talks about.
Every number is something.
Well, what's the biggest 40 number that everyone always misses? It's not 40 days, but it's 40 weeks, which is full gestation period for a baby. 40 weeks.
So are you saying that 40 is like a maturity?
I don't know. It's just it's 40 weeks. It's
that full term. Oh. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I am a celibate and a man. I didn't know that at all. So 40, I'll never forget that now because
humans.
Yeah. Thank you. Wait, you mean every animal's not the same?
So
gestation.
So 40 days is, but it's with plus Sundays, right? So it actually comes out.
It's like 46, I think, if you do the math. But there's all kind of arguments around that.
I was just going to say, where do you fall on that argument?
On Sunday, you can
cheat.
So it depends, I think, on what you're doing. For sure. Right?
You give up swearing. Can't say all the swear words.
Just going to bottle up all those F words until Sunday. Just let it go. No, I think there's something about, as a family, growing up, going back to like when we were growing up, we always gave up dessert. So Sunday we always had a dessert as a family. As a way to celebrate the resurrection, because every Sunday is Easter. It's a celebration of the resurrection. That's why you are not required ever to fast on a Sunday because of that or things like that. But I mean, that's absolutely good things of which we should keep working on them and doing.
Like giving up cigarettes when you smoke like a whole pack on Sunday.
Yeah, here we go. That's an interesting point too. So you bring up both of those. So do you think giving something up that's actually a sin or terrible for you to begin with is a good Lenten practice, like swearing?
I think if your intention behind it is to create as a habit, that after 40 days you do it less. Right?
But I would know people that would like the next day they're like they just literally just do it for 40 days.
I know. I mean, giving up drinking for 40 days. I mean, not that you have a drinking problem, but you definitely are like seeing how you could do things in moderation, right? Like I think it's all about trying to cultivate the virtue of self-control too. So if you do have certain practices that you adopt and you're more intentional with them, if you're cultivating that virtue, it's good, right? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I go back and forth, I'll be honest. I could see, because I think on the purely like way in which the church offers us Lent is that it shouldn't be vices, because really we're to give up something that's a good as a way to further to fortify ourselves and to show, like not to show ourselves, that's a wrong word for it, but to like show to ourselves that this is something I can do, that I have the willpower through the grace of God to do something. So even if I give up a good, which then further into your life, I can say no to vices. I can say no to sin. Okay. But if we're using Lent, this time of spiritual time, a spiritual season, and then I'm just going to give up my sins, well, I should be doing that year round. So that's, I think, the argument against that. But then, again, it's a time of purification. So that's where the argument, well, if it's an intense time of purification, maybe I can really focus in on giving up some of my vices. And I mean, like my sinful vices. Like, and that's why drinking, like, okay, if you have a drinking problem, if you are an alcoholic or struggle with it, then yeah,
crazy binge drinking.
Yeah, like that's not good.
Or going out, like
But like if you have a beer, like if you just, or you have a beer with dinner, okay, maybe give that up for Lent. That's not necessarily advice. It's just something that's something
you enjoy.
Yeah. So it's an enjoyment.
It's good as long as you have.
So it's like giving desserts up for.
Well, then what about cigarettes? What if someone?
Yeah.
I guess it depends.
So I feel like that could be a social like taboo, right? If I say like, well, I don't think like smoking is necessarily a sin. I don't think it is in one sense. I think it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing for your health.
It's not a good choice.
Yeah, it's not a good choice. I don't think you should be smoking, but at the same time, I don't think if you're smoking, you're sinning.
Okay. And it is crazy.
Does that make sense?
A lot of just how many people don't like. You'll see the people who smoke. They're like usually like hang out with each other, but there's just not a lot of people who smoke anymore, which is good. It's
become a social taboo. Yeah, it's a social sin. You can say like smoking is a social
everybody
sin.
I work with smokes. Right. It's
really
insane.
Yes.
See, I think also in the food industry, it seems like
the way they always want to run outside,
Because in high school I was a busboy and a waiter and stuff, and like it seemed like everybody smoked in that industry.
In the bar, in the bar. Well, mostly it's the people who hang out in bars. They chain smoke. I mean, that was me. I know. And
it's difficult to break that if that's where you're going.
Yeah.
You know,
if that's what your friends do, right? Like there's something about we do what our friends do, right?
Exactly.
The people are around.
I mean, I smoked for 10 years. I gave up. It was when I got pregnant with Avery that I quit, and I just never went back. Mm-hmm. But it's a social thing. Everybody's doing it around you. It's very difficult.
Because
So, I don't know. I guess you just have to think about, again, everything I think that you do should be intentionally to grow spiritually closer, and why are you doing it? So if there's an intentionality, like you said, I want to do this for God and know that I can do it with His grace.
But a lot of it too, like when I did the 75 Hard, which was super intense, but a lot of those disciplines that I learned, because it wasn't just 40 days, it was 75 days. So it was like a lot of those things, they stuck. It's like I think I have like crazy willpower now. Like it conditioned me. Yeah, and it was like super extreme. So it was like, I can put myself in. Not like I would go around trying to tempt myself, but it's like it's just I don't know. I just feel like a trial by fire. Basically, it was like
I can do hard things.
Yeah, that's what it is. Because a lot of people don't get through it, and it's like it's more like not a prideful thing, but I know what it what I went through, I just conditioned myself to. There's a lot of good habits. It wasn't just the working out. It was like you had to read, but it was every day. Drinking a ton of water, which most people don't do. Like you drink like a gallon of water a day. But the working out, I was already doing that. But this is more than it was the diet. Like it was so super strict, and then no days off at all. So it just was extra. Like you didn't get like a Sunday off to do the thing. So it was just like really helped train my the will.
That's cool to hear because I think like one of my biggest critiques, if I want to say, of Exodus 90 is that I've seen so many men that go through that and then the next day or a couple weeks later, a month later, like they're back to what they were struggling with before, whatever else. But it's cool to hear the other side. I think then the big challenge on like with that is like how do you keep your pride in check then as well?
Yeah, that's the hard part.
Yeah,
for me, it's hard.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like go into public confession right there. Sorry.
It's just hard. It's like, but for me, like when I went and did my outside workouts, I mean, I just turned it into a prayer. So I was praying or listening. I had like this playlist. It was like this meditation type music, and I just was enjoying God and His creation and trying to stay humble. That's like going to regular confession. That's
life right now, right?
Regular confession and daily mass really helps, but I have to check myself for sure to think that it's not. There's just that it's not my. It's not your will. It's just that I'm training myself to cooperate with God's will. That's how I should be phrasing it.
And it goes back to that intentionality. You're saying like I'm not doing this because of anything special that I am, but because of God's grace.
And it starts with when I get out of bed, first thing I do, this first thing I say, hey God, I offer up this whole day for you. All the joys and sufferings of my days for you. Try to check myself as soon as I get up before I turn into the sinner that I am. So at least I have the right intention as I start my day and try to think about
getting up right when the alarm clock goes off.
That I do. What does Fulton Sheen say? There's two ways to get up. Either good God morning or good morning God. It's like something like that. Like you can say it the same way, two different ways, but one word it's like, oh no, another day. Oh, another day, or no, you get a day. How can I make the most of it? Yeah, Fulton Sheen has a way of words.
So do priests have to do anything specific or special for Lent, or can you guys have the freedom to?
Yeah,
give up
still got to do the liturgy of the hours.
Yeah, well, like the promises that we have to do all year round, obviously, like the liturgy of the hours and all that. But no. So I mean, as a diocesan priest, as a secular priest, there's no further things like this is what I must do or like I have to do. I know a lot of religious orders, so I know like down at St. Meinrad, the monastery, like the whole monastery gives up things, kind of because they're a family. They operate more like a family.
Your community agrees on something. It's different. Okay.
So I know a lot of them do like only bread or soup and bread for Lent, things like that, where they the fasting side of things they can get really intense on.
I would like that. I love soup and bread. My favorite.
Well, old times, right? Like you're talking like Middle Ages. Yeah, no, but like Middle Ages, like beer. Like there's stories of like the monks only drinking like big. Thick porters, and like that would be
how they survive.
My best friend's brother, that's what he would do.
Really?
Would give up food and just drink his beer because like the monks did it. This is not how this is supposed to be.
You're not St. Francis. You're not going to do that.
But I still love that. But no. So nothing necessarily special, and it's very and so it's interesting just like thinking about that. It's a moment like because I operate. It sounds bad, like I operate very much by myself as a priest, as a secular priest, right, as a diocesan priest. I live with Father Sammy, the pastor, but we weren't called to community life. Like, we aren't meant to be in that way.
You do your own thing.
We do our own things as adults, living in the same house, but that's about it, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not the community rules or things like that.
Do the readings for the liturgy hours get a little bit longer or like different, or how does it change with the season? I mean, I was doing it some for a little while, but I just kept forgetting to put that into my. I was trying to do I was really trying to do because they had the apps and stuff like that, but I just couldn't. But it helps you really. I mean, there's so much psalms and prayers and.
No, it's interesting. One of my spiritual directors in seminary said you'll go through seasons in your life of prayer, like what you were really drawn to. Like, so here's your daily prayers that you say, like whatever it is, right? Your holy hour, your rosary, your liturgy of the hours, mass, all these things. And like, because I remember bringing it to him, like, I'm just feeling like this is just really dry. I think it was the rosary at the time. Like, I'm just not feeling it. And he was telling me, like, you know what, you go through seasons, but you still need to be faithful to it all. And so right now, my season I'm in right now is the Liturgy of the Hours. I'm loving it. So it's interesting you bring all that up. Side note, that was like a not
No,
but side note. Like,
that makes sense.
So I think it's like, yeah, but to be faithful to all of which my plan of life is a way to say it, right? My plan of life of my prayer. But the Liturgy of the Hours, so the first one of the, so there's 5 hours. The first one is the office of reading. So it's 3 Psalms, a usually Old Testament reading, and then a reflection from one of the ancient fathers, from Vatican II. Like, you have the whole gamut, and then of a second reading. And that's where you'll see a lot more Lenten themes. So you'll go through a lot of Lenten themes in that first one with Old Testament stuff, but then also a lot of more reflections on Lent itself. So that stuff changes a lot. If you pray 4 weeks consecutively, all the hours, you'll go through all 150 Psalms. You'll go through, if you do the whole Liturgy of the Hours and go to Mass every day for a year, you'll go through the whole Bible too. Through everything.
I mean, we already do Bible in here then.
Oh, Father Mike Schmitz.
Yeah, do it way before Father did.
We beat you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those are so some fun
that.
things, yeah. So it does change and fluctuate with the seasons for sure.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, I think it, obviously, the times that you don't feel like doing stuff and you still do it, I always feel like, God's like, all right, like, kind of cheering you on, but it's like, I know it gets dry sometimes. And like, even like for me, like, I'll have some masses where it's like, I feel like I can't focus. You know what I'm saying? But I know it's
kind of like when you drive somewhere and you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah. It's like
I've celebrated some masses that way. I get nervous at the end, like, did I actually have a valid mass?
Yeah. Because it's like
so,
did I say? Oh, yeah.
Did I say all the right
things?
Yeah, so,
I've had that with teaching because I used to teach the same thing 5 times in a day. So sometimes by my 7th period, I'm like, did I tell you guys this? They're like, yeah, you just did. I'm like, good to know.
But it goes, but what you're saying, like with prayer, right? It's like, you can just go through those moments where it's like, oh shoot.
Yeah, and then I feel like when I do like space out, and then at that moment where you go back into it, even though you've already lost connection or focus, that's even like, I don't know. I just feel like that's not extra credit, but you know what I mean? It's like
that's why. Because I know I want to do my own episode on this in general, like just conversion and how it's an ongoing process and it's almost daily, almost hourly.
Preach it, sister.
Conversion is a constant. And I think that it's because but in every relationship it gets like that. You can go on autopilot with your spouse. You can go on autopilot with your best friend. Like, that's with your job, with anything. Because we do like our routines as human beings. Sometimes we need knocked out of it, right?
But relationships should never be a routine at times, right?
Right.
Like our love for another person, spouse, friends.
But it does get like that sometimes.
Yeah.
It really does.
Well, so much of the faith, too, as I start to grow deeper in my faith, is all about focus and attention. It really is. Because it's so hard as having things to do, but like when we can actually, I mean, I think that's what it's about. What are we calling attention to? We got to, like, God is with us at all times, but he's only as close as we allow it or how we think about it. Like, if he's always with us, but we don't acknowledge it, it's not going to affect us much more unless we draw that attention and focus. And for me, when I was doing the best one, I was like super serious doing the Jesus prayer, like, because I'm just focused on it all day long. And that's when I was the happiest and had the most joy. Really I was like on cloud 9. So now every time I try to go back into it for like a day,
but that's a reconvert, like, 'cause you're not anymore. So you need
I
to
still
get back
do
in
it, but I still do it, but I do it like a quarter of the time. Yeah,
that's life. You're gonna have peaks and valleys.
Or it's an adjustment, because I think in our spiritual life sometimes we can look back and say, like, oh, look at how good I was then. Like, everything seemed to be lining up, but that was in your past. Like, what's Jesus calling you to right now? So like that Jesus prayer was working for you then, right? Like, you were intense and it felt great and you were connected. But that doesn't mean that's what Jesus wants right now from you either, right?
Like, that's a good point. So what works for you in the past spiritually might not be.
Obviously, there's caveats. Like, we need the Mass, right? Like, we need those certain things. But like, I think sometimes when our spiritual life, like some of those smaller things, right? Like, that was great at that moment because obviously you needed that at that time.
I feel like converts need that. Well, actually, no, I shouldn't say converts. I'd say all Catholics. Like, thinking about, we're all, you go through these conversion moments and he touches your life and he changes you. And you get a lot of people that go, well, now what?
Yeah.
Like
what's
at
next?
Alpha, like Alpha's over. Like,
yeah, like everyone always asks, like, now what? Like, we really like this.
What do we do? Like, we love having these conversations. Like, what's the next? You know what I mean?
Yeah, we see that in RCA as well. Like, it's actually percentage-wise is scary. Something like don't quote me on this. Like 60 or 70% of people who go through RCA within like 2 years stop practicing.
Oh my gosh!
Because they were so connected to the church through the group, learning, and in so many parishes, they got baptized, came into the church, and then what next? And they didn't feel that connection, and they fell through the cracks, and you never see them again.
Wow.
It's over 50%. I know that for sure. It's scary. It's like, gosh, we're so bad at that next step process.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the awesome thing about St. John's. So our parish is so intentional. They're so intentional about knowing those things. Mm-hmm. This is what's going on, and just having the process in general. Like, okay, well, this is what's going on, and being cognizant.
We're just
of
having
things.
different ministries to plug into.
Yeah, there's always hopefully something for you at whatever stage or season of life you're in at that moment, right?
My idea, I don't know where I heard that from, was always to do like a ministry fair. Like a thing, like after one of the masses, especially for like the newer people, like there's so much and they don't know.
Isn't that what Next Up Sunday does, though?
I think, yeah, actually, but I go like going back to our thoughts, like at St. John the Evangelist, right? Like, 'cause especially the churches are moving in the 21st, like we're in the 21st century, but 2022, like we're a digital age. Like, there's so much things we can find online that I think, yeah, it's maybe helpful to throw it out in the narthex or whatever else, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, is that helpful for people? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of awkward that people like, hey, come join our group.
Know it exists.
Yeah,
that's what matters, right?
At my home parish growing up, we had a ministry fair every weekend.
Every weekend,
or not every weekend? Sorry, every year. No, every year. And so the pastor, I remember this because like I guess there wasn't people in ministries or something, and so he had a 20-minute mass, Sunday mass. And then he said, no homily, all this stuff. Now you have to go to the ministry fair. And everybody just left mass anyway. Like, they didn't, like, go to the ministry fair. So I'm just like, maybe it's just because my, like, experiences, I'm anti-ministry fair.
Yeah, no, I just think...
my experience.
Attending it.
Yeah, it's like, we did a lot of time for not a good return.
Yeah, no, I just think just like, I guess I was just thinking like in the narthex, just having like people...
Like for people to know what's going on. Like,
well, they have the booth, though. They have the information desk, so anything they can kind of tell them about it.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So what about now, so we talked about prayer. So what are some other things? Obviously, Stations of the Cross.
Yeah. Actually, that's one of I have a huge devotion to Stations of the Cross. As a priest, I actually just go and attend usually because previous parish I was at, the deacons always did it, and I think here at St. John's does the same thing. Mm-hmm. But if you go to Stations of the Cross with St. John the Evangelist, I'll probably just be there with you because I love it. Love going.
And how blessed are we to have the Passion of the Shrine?
Oh my gosh!
I haven't I think I've only been there twice. We got to take the kids this year.
The kids love it.
Yeah.
I heard on Good Friday, right? Like it's a huge...
Relevant Radio.
Like they come out and do it.
Father Rocky came and did something one year. I don't know if they do that every year.
I think him and then the bishop's done it. Like, yeah.
But it's so... I'd like especially too, because it starts like at the Last Supper and you like sit down at the table. It's cool. It's so... The way it's set up, it's super intentional, but it is... someone tells you each station and you can pray, and it's beautiful the way it's set up, and we're so blessed to have that.
I love the Stations of the Cross version where you're kind of put in it. And there's like reflections.
Oh, like the reflection part of it is?
Does the St. John Paul II have one?
JP2 does. Alfonso Liguori is the classic one.
I think that's the one I really like. One? There's one that I remember St. Andrews went to something else, and I was like, no. I loved one, a specific kind, and you felt like you were in it, and then you would say, I'm sorry, I did that.
Yeah, I think that is Alfonso Liguori. I think it is.
That's the one I really like.
Have you ever heard there's one from Mary's perspective? And it's kind of like, I guess you could, like, it's kind of like The Chosen where it takes some liberties, but it's like from Mary's perspective as a mother. I think St. Michael's in Cherville, I think they've done that one before. I remember praying. It was a powerful one to do too. It's just, it's different, especially if you do a lot of it.
I might have seen it because St. Casimir, when I worked there, the 8th grade teacher for a long time, well, she ended up being the preschool teacher. She's amazing.
That's one extreme to the other.
Yeah, exactly. She's awesome though, but she has a experience in local theater too, and I believe she might have degrees in it. But anyway, so she would have the 8th grade would put on a Stations of the Cross. So we would do regular Stations of the Cross every Friday during Lent, but then at the very last one, the 8th graders put on their thing, and it was always different every year. She did one where it was all shadows. Whoa! It was very cool. They did. I feel like they might have done that
like Mary perspective
because there's something that rings. Like my memory is remembering something like that. Every year was something different. She would get some kind of script. She'd treat it like a production. They would have dress rehearsals. They would have practice after school. She would have auditions. It was like
a big deal.
It was a big deal, and it was every year I'd cry, and I would tell her, I'm like, cried again. She's like, that's what we're after. That's what I'm going for there. I'm like, every year it was beautifully done, and music and everything. So I think that's where I saw the Marian one.
I love like Station of the Cross and the devotionals of the church, because you can take those liberties, because it's not it's not mass, or like you have to do it this way, right? And so I think Lent gives a lot of opportunities for that, in which a lot of these devotionals that we do, you can go in all different directions, because it's really what it works for you. Like, what do you need right now in your life, especially the personal ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what season of life are you in?
That's true, and you could be creative.
Yeah.
Imaginative prayer right there.
Yeah, I'm bragging about our parish a lot, but it's just like there's just a lot of like our encounter nights. It's like there is a lot of liberty that you can take outside of the Mass, and I know a lot of kind of the traditional Catholics, which is fine. I mean, I am in a lot of ways, but it's like anything outside the Mass, we can think outside the box and to try to draw, whether that's beautiful music or spiritual reading or testimonies or anything, or just a powerful small groups or anything that's outside the Mass can be as long as it's not heretical or sacrilegious,
anything.
Yeah, but still, like going to the encounter thing. Join us on Ash Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. But anyway,
yeah, I know
that's very selfish on my part. I'll be there hearing confession, so come see me. Anyway, but it's so cool because
I'm bummed. I got the online alpha, so I can't go.
Oh darn! Yeah. Bring your laptop.
Yeah, right.
No, but it's really cool because we have Eucharistic adoration going on. We have a praise and worship experience for part of it. We have silence. Sometimes there's like witness testimonies. We have confession going. Like, I don't know how much more Catholic you can get. I mean, sometimes they'll pull out some Gregorian chant. Like, what more do you want?
Right, exactly. And it's all done with intentionality.
Yep.
That's. I guess that would be my only one complaint of St. John, is that I do appreciate at some point a silence. And it's. No, I mean, I can focus after I receive Jesus in the Eucharist to pray, but it's so hard because the music's so good. You want to jam to the song too, but you want to pray at the same time, But I do miss
because you're used to getting that in your weekday Mass.
Yeah, I'm
silence, right?
But and I've come to grow too, as far as how I view Sunday Mass as more of
community
of a community, and Sunday more of God and myself time. Not that it's not the weekday stuff, and just seeing it totally different. It's just it just feels more like a community, and it should be.
Well, there's a lot more people.
That's for sure. But I think so. It's interesting. You bring up an interesting point, which I've been reflecting on in my own personal thought about Mass, especially coming to St. John's, is that it's almost like as Catholics, especially ones who are disciples and making disciples, you are now, we're called to go out and be those people who are going to bridge that gap, to evangelize. Sunday Mass is not about us. It's really about the people that have shown up for the very first time, who haven't been in church in a long time. Those are the people we're trying to reach. And yes, you are going to be fed spiritually, and hopefully you can reach that and experience that as well. But that's what we're there for, is first and foremost.
And silence might not be the best thing for those.
I do think there needs to be silence in our liturgies, and hopefully we can try to build some of those.
Yeah, and I'm not talking I'm talking
a minute or two.
Yeah, a minute or two of reflection time, just to kind of, but
to catch our breath almost. In some sense.
But it's that's a small thing. I think everything else is done pretty well. But like I said, sometimes I just find myself, because the music's so good, it's you'll be singing, and I'm trying to. That's cool. Yeah, it depends. But what the problem, I guess, is where people who view most people who go to daily Mass, they're pretty traditional for the most part, that they view that Sunday Mass like that too. It's it's just me and Jesus. I'm you're missing the horizontal part of being the connection to the other people. Yes, it's important for you to be prayerful about it, but you're also, when we use the terms active participation, it's it's not, it doesn't mean you have to be an usher or have to serve or be a reader, but you need to be at least smile at the next person. And we've all we've all been to those parishes where it's like people are just like,
they're actually angrier there.
Yeah, it's like what am I seeing that's different than it's like that's what's going to sell Jesus to other people, is that I'm changed after Mass. Mm-hmm. I'm changed during Mass. I I feel joy. And if we can't share that, we just look like everybody else. No wonder why people, in the younger age group.
You just have to get up early and,
you just got to.
And then feel shame when you don't follow all the rules exactly right, right? Like everything else.
Yeah, so it's like, I get, I just feel, I think it's, there's room for both, to both end of it, but it's like, I don't know, Sundays should be more of a celebration. It is. But we're basing our parish, which is, totally different, and it seems, been intentional in working at this process of being welcome to outsiders, to having a great Sunday experience. And that's thanks to Father Declan. If you haven't listened to any of his homilies, he's one of the He's one of the best.
Liking this plug.
He's one of the best homilists out there. We're gonna put his links to his homilies because I'm super impressed, because I mean in the when you guys are getting your training, how much is actually into public speaking?
Maybe we take one class, two
or two classes.
Homiletics,
yeah.
But still, I mean, there's still people who are like you're calling, like whatever, Dominicans, or isn't that what
the order of preachers?
Yeah, order of preachers, the Dominicans, and it's like, but he does it with no notes. He does it
with no ums.
Yeah, with no ums and ahs. He barely.
Always umming and ahhing.
Yeah, he's engaging while he does it, and he. It seems like you've been working and you're getting better at it too. Like you're working on your craft too. And it really, it connects. I mean, today was excellent. My brother, who's never been to a Catholic Mass, he maybe went for a baptism. But that was by
Braden's baptism.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But that was, this is something separate. This wasn't for an event that he actually had to go because he's my brother.
Right.
But he was like, you could see he was like, bobbing his head. He's like, it's kind of.
This guy's not a complete idiot up there.
Yeah, and it was good, So yeah, if you're looking for some good homilies, you don't have to. They have the. You don't have to watch the whole Mass. They have just the clip. They clip them out, just the homilies. So they're excellent. We'll share a link to all the SJ. And also, Father Declan has, we didn't even talk about yet, he has a Grounded in Faith show on YouTube also, where he interviews...
Well, you were my first guest.
I was the first guest.
Out the big guns.
Yeah, and then he's had how many you have? Like
I think maybe 7.
7 so far.
I think it come out every other Wednesday.
Every other Wednesday, Grounded in Faith. So check that out.
We'll put a link in the show notes.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the Holy Spirit, though. I think that's kind of what it goes back to, like what we've been talking about, right? Like it has to be the Holy Spirit to lead us, because otherwise, by our own power, we're failures.
Yeah. So how long would you say you spend preparing for your homilies?
For Sunday, probably 10 to 15 hours a week. So I start tonight. Like, so this coming weekend I don't have to preach, but if I'm preaching next weekend, I start Sunday night. I spend a couple days with the scriptures praying with them. I usually get some ideas and directions. I'm going to go write things out, some outline stuff, start doing some research, think about some stories, whatever. And then usually come Thursday to lead it all, because then all of a sudden the Holy Spirit's like, no, I don't want to go that direction. Not every week, but then get it all together. So, yeah, I spend some time.
Do you practice?
I do. So, so now
do you practice in front of the mirror?
The insider. I do not practice in front of the mirror, but I practice in my room. And I will imagine the space. And so I actually have most of my spots marked out. It sounds super weird doing that.
No, not at all, because you get so close to the edge without falling out. I'm always worried. I'm always like, man, he's so.
Shoes.
I'm like he's so close.
Yes, that never happens.
Yeah, I have it taped up. No, I don't. In my room, no. But I have to. So I imagine the space, because it's
a big play. It's like we have 1,000
people there, or whatever.
And it's around the. And it's not just straight ahead either. So you have to engage the whole. You can tell you really are. intentional about that.
Yeah, no, so actually Ron Huntley, so with the, he's our parish coach here. I don't know, have you guys talked about him on the podcast a little bit, at all?
Maybe
but
once or twice.
He does a lot with Alpha and all this stuff. But so he's been helping me when it comes to both my delivery of my homily a lot. So like really being able to express emotionally on my face or my emotions what I'm trying to communicate in the story or what have you. And so that's where I've been practicing, not so much like what I'm saying, because I have that all written out. So my homilies are all written out. I just then memorize them.
Well, that's awesome. You know what? It was funny because he recommended to me, because I've done some public speaking before we were even parishioners. I did a couple talks, and I was a teacher and stuff like that. So, but I always wanted to get better, obviously, through the show. But he recommended Toastmasters.
Oh, nice.
And I was looking into it. Like he said that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to go. They have I think they have a local chapter that's still, the COVID messed it all up. They were doing online. I'm like, well, that's not the same. It's not even close to the same.
Yeah. Isn't the whole point being with other people and speaking?
Yeah. Well,
that really defeats the purpose.
But I think with COVID, I mean, it was good because people are still having to do that. So how to do it probably the best through the computer.
How to do a Zoom public speak. Actually, it's a different way.
Yeah, it's a different way. So I'm sure they probably had some people who were kind of good at that too. Huh. So which makes sense because it is different. Because now I'm doing the online alpha, and it's like I'm such a people person. It's so weird.
It's difficult the first time you do things like that because especially if you feed off of other people's body language. It's so hard.
I remember the first time I had to celebrate Mass in an empty church when COVID happened to a video camera and to preach to a video camera, and I relied so much on people's facial expressions and everything else. And then when people came back, they all had masks on, so I still couldn't rely on it. I was like, it's actually easier not to have people here. Yeah. And they're like, so it was weird, but I think that skill is definitely it's a different kind of skill to work on.
But you could definitely tell you put the time in. I mean, a lot of people think that you're just naturally that good. I don't think they realize, because I thought priests just, show up for an hour on Sundays and that's about all they do all week,
that's all. 10 to 15 hours.
Yeah. Well, I remember, that's what Rick Warren, that's about, probably I think he said he puts in 10 to 15 hours a week on his homily.
So how there's plenty of other things going on in my life, right? St. John's, I say plenty busy, but I see this is the biggest area of which I can influence people. So this weekend, we probably had almost 2,000 people I preached to over the course of the weekend. Right. This is my opportunity to really influence people's lives. So why would I not spend hopefully a majority amount of my time the week leading up to it preparing for that, right? And work on that skill.
It's a video and it gets shared. If it's something that's touching and that's just perpetually
keeps going hopefully, yeah. Right. No, exactly.
Well, and that's part of the the beauty of the divine renovation, that a lot of parishes are moving away from, where the priests where they empower the lay people or pastoral associates or people to help do the stuff that you guys usually are bogged down doing, where you can't focus on, building. You're just putting out fires all day or doing the maintenance type stuff. It's now you can actually focus on being a great homilist where you can affect the most people, or being more present, or
the visionary of the pair. And that's what I think Father Sammy, for myself, seeing him, it's amazing to see the vision and then being able to implement the vision, because there's people that are doing all the other stuff that in most parishes it's the priest doing, which is it's not a waste of time, but at the same, it is a waste of time.
You're wasting. You're wasting. You're worrying about capital campaigns or the boilers out or this person. Plus you got the school and you got all these other things, and I see that it's hard for a lot of. I don't know if it's for everyone or just from my personal experience at our old parish, is that it's hard to let go of some of those things, I guess, unless you have the right people in place, because it's you
mean give up the control?
Yeah, I mean, control is always a temptation.
Because trust is, how you want things done,
and having building a team you can trust. Yeah.
And then too, I think so as a priest, it's sometimes hard because you see people or you talk, you counsel people, and you never see the final results. Very rarely. Mm-hmm. So the satisfaction sometimes of putting fires out is very satisfying, because you see I changed, I affected change.
Ooh,
things were complete. It's like mowing the lawn is so satisfying because you see the results. For me, cleaning my car, I love cleaning my car because I see the results. So I think that could also be the danger, not just the control, which is definitely an aspect of it, but just if I'm putting fires out, I feel accomplished by the end of the day.
Endorphins, that's how I am. If I have a checklist and I do the things on the checklist, I get a surge of energy from that. Yes, I accomplished that. Yeah, you're right. But not seeing
when you're like trying to envision a team that they're doing all these awesome things. Like, yeah, I guess on one level as a leader, hopefully you're able to like celebrate those victories, but it's not the same, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's just the vision. Just most parishes, I just don't think take the time out to have like a vision to think big or to be apostolic or to see.
They might not have enough people either. What is the statistic like?
8% of people do
90% of the
80% of the work.
Out,
it's like the 80-20 rule, but it's 7 or 8%.
I think John Ricardo also says the average parish has 2.1 employees or something, 2.2 employees.
Yeah,
Something weird. Like that's the average Catholic parish because he was talking. This is the Alpha Conference.
Yeah,
he was talking with his Protestant friend who he was a pastor of a megachurch or a Protestant minister of a megachurch and who had like 100 employees. And John Ricardo's like, which is amazing. And most Catholic churches, the average is 2.2 employees. So like the difference on because they were talking about how much he just does as the pastor and doesn't get a chance to do a lot of the other things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
they can't.
And that's what's beautiful about our parish is that we have Louis and Khalil, we have all these other guys, so you guys can do podcasts and you can do stuff to think outside the box.
And I can spend time 15 hours a week on a homily.
And it shows though because it's affecting me. I mean, I've shared them, and it's like hopefully you guys will check them out and listen because they're great. Because I think you do a good job of tying it all together, not only teaching but also bringing in, like today you brought in the assassination attempt of St. John Paul II and brought that into the reading and
edification.
Yeah, and tying it all together in a way that, and the delivery, you could tell you work on the delivery. So I didn't know you were too that serious though.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So if you look up into my bedroom and you see me walking around talking to myself, that's what I'm doing.
That's awesome.
Now we know.
Yeah. He's not just crazy.
Yeah.
He's still crazy, but not that crazy.
Well, it's just like anything. And the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. The longer you've been at the parish, the more you know the people. When you're looking out into the crowd, I'm sure it's hard to focus on individuals. Or when you look out, do you see people or you just see the crowd? Right? Have you learned how to do that?
Yeah, so I've been working on that for sure. I have key people I look at. So full disclosure, you guys are some of my key people I look at. So there's different people, but that's exactly why, because I know you're going to sit there and you're usually at the 10 o'clock mass. So there's people that I'll look at, or when I want to make it feel more personal, I'll like look at those. So, but it is interesting because the longer I've been at St. John's, I think I brought it into the homily today. I can't remember if I said it though. So I was talking about forgiveness, and so I've been I sit in the confessional for 3 or 4 hours a week, hearing confessions, and 95% of people have unforgiveness on their heart. Like they're holding grudges, anger, especially right now. So when you're part of a community longer, I know what people are truly struggling with, and then I can preach into those areas. So that's like the itinerant preacher who just kind of goes around like, yeah, you might be really good at your craft, but you don't really know what the actual community is struggling with.
Wow.
So I think that's also really helpful.
Yeah.
Like, so I've been at St. John's for 8 months now, so I feel like, or whatever it is, like, I feel like I know people a little better.
Yeah, and I think, too, the forgiveness thing, too. I know just from, like, doing Alpha as we would talk to people, and, like, some of the people, like, would talk about, like, things that they're holding on to. Some of the things are so, like, petty or small, too.
That's me. I do the same thing all the time.
I
do it all the time.
And, like, it just seemed like at the weekend away, though, like a couple of people let it go.
This was our experience at our previous parish. We had a lot of more older people in our community that held on to things for 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, where they were still
all got let out on the weekend.
That's awesome.
And it was like, it was a lot of healing, and it was like because they were just holding on to these things, and it wasn't like you shot my dog or ran off with my wife or my truck or something like that. It was like
country western.
Yeah, I know.
Wait, you guys went to you were in like Chicago.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, well, so and so like didn't come to my party, and so and so like was supposed to pick up lunch, and they did like it was like these.
But it wasn't.
And it was 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was like.
No, there was some. Without getting too, because a lot of things were personal. Disclosed. There was a lot of relational hurting that did come out and get healed, and that's what's beautiful. But it takes an acknowledgement of that and a
space to be able to do it, because I think if you don't know how to forgive or not ever given a space to forgive, then those little petty grudges turn into big things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and you just don't even remember why. Yeah. You just know that they did
should
something.
Be angry at
I should be mad. I know they did something bad to me. I can't give you specifics, but I know.
Well, I guess too, with just the whole forgiveness thing in general, we think that if I forgive somebody, that things have to go back to the way.
Or I'm a doormat.
That they have to go back, that the relationship is going to be exactly the same. It's like, well, no, if there's a broken relationship, the forgiveness is for you and your heart. But if it was a trust issue or something, doesn't mean you have to go back being best friends or get back with the person. No. But that's what a lot of people assume. Like, if I forgive them, then they didn't do anything wrong and things are going to go exactly the way they were.
Justice still needs to take place. Mm-hmm. And if somebody truly did hurt you, you should not just go back to how it was. Like, maybe they're not going to be your friend. And that's okay.
Right.
But forgiveness still needs to take place from the past hurts.
And you need to let it go.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point, though, I think. Right, because I think sometimes we think, it's just going to all go back to the same. It's like, no.
Yeah, it's like, I don't want to forget. I don't want to forgive them because then, okay, but it's not and a lot of the times, too, what was the line that, unforgiveness is like drinking poison expecting the other person to die. Right. So it's like.
That's a great line.
It's like.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Why didn't we talk before my homily?
Yeah, right. No. Well, I know that I was on the. We did start. I know Divine Renovation had like homily teams, like we helped brainstorm. But you guys got it going on. You know anyone's help, but
that's not true.
So
there's actually a good group of people I'll like bring stuff to, and like they give me ideas, which is nice.
That's good.
Different people throughout the parish.
And then what was the other line? It was kind of like how you ended it with the Corrie ten Boom thing. Not that it's not who me forgives. It's God. I can't do it on my own. It's like your rational brain saying no, protect yourself. That's our biology. It's built in over years and years and years of trying to figure out how to protect ourselves. But to what's the line? Drawing a blank now. I think it's C.S. Lewis. It's easy the idea of forgiving someone's easy until you have to do it. That's the hard part. Is that yes. I wish I had like you said, the bravery to forgive, your enemy that was trying to kill you and killed your family and tortured, it's like, that's great. I mean, that's an extreme thing. But another one in the Alpha videos they did was the Rwanda war, that the two sides were fighting each other and the one guy forgave another guy. And there was there was a mass genocide too. It's those are like the stories of like, but more times than not, those are extreme.
Or Saint Maria Goretti. Look at those extreme examples and you think, dang, they could do that forgiveness. I can forgive so-and-so for what did you say, not coming to my party.
Not coming to my party.
Not picking up dinner or whatever.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Let's put this all together because this was intentionally to be a conversation about Lent, and I think it still is because we ultimately we look to that cross, we look to Lent, we look to what happened during Holy Week as our being done for us to forgive us, to take it. So we need to also be accepting of that forgiveness, and I think that Lent can be that purification time where we're accepting of what happened, and that we're internalizing that and trying to make ourselves better to feel, not feel like we deserve it, but what am I trying to say? Do you see what I'm saying? Like we're taking what was done for us
to allow the Lord to like truly save us, right? Like because He has saved us, but to say like, I'm deserving of, not deserving, but worthy is a better word for it. Yeah.
You did this for me. I'm worthy of it, and I want to do something to make myself.
I'm unworthy, but you've done it in spite of that.
But then, if you don't, if we don't acknowledge those things, then what's the need of Jesus? What do you need a Savior for?
And how can I?
And that's what Lent's for, right?
Right. And how can I accept this? I'm humbling myself. I'm accepting this forgiveness. I need to also. I can't accept it if I have issues with someone else, right?
So Our Father, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us.
It's kind of like comes full circle, this conversation of like what this all really truly means.
I'm so glad you're able to pull that together because I was getting nervous that we went off on a big tangent. I'm like, way to go.
I think the bigger part too, I know for myself, is a lot of times forgiving ourselves. It's not just always like of our past or things that we've done or things that we should have done or didn't do, to being hard on ourselves, and to not being able to to move on and to
like
actually accept that forgiveness. Right. And even if you go to confession.
Makeover that we want it to be, right? That by the end of it, I should be closer to God. I should be more self-mastery. I should have all these things through his reliance on his grace. I need to start somewhere.
And how much of it, and we didn't talk too much about it with almsgiving. We talked about with giving up and giving the money. But for me, I know Pope Francis always talks a lot about it, is where a lot of times we're quick to give money, which is good, but having those opportunities for us to be like closer to the poor, like actually serving.
The smell of the sheep.
Doing, and for me, when I was doing the soup kitchen, like every Wednesday at our old parish, it was, and I was super intentional about, like, after we served, I would sit down and talk to people, and it was amazing.
Because it all goes back to, it's not a matter of just doing these things, but it's a matter of transforming our own lives. So almsgiving is not a matter of just writing that check because, here's extra money I had this month, right? No, it's a matter of how am I transforming my life? So it is, like, if it is giving money, like, it should come out of our poverty, right? It should force us to change our lives a little bit, which is hard to do. But then also our time, right? Like, going and, you could have done 100 other things that Wednesday, I'm sure, but it changed who you were by going and sitting down with that person or doing all these other things.
And doing something uncomfortable. It is one thing to serve them. And to go and sit, that's uncomfortable. So it should hurt a little, right?
It should,
Well, it's just fun. I mean, there's so many good stories though. Like the one lady, she called me Justin Timberlake. I don't know why. I don't look at anything. It's like Justin Timberlake.
Absolutely nothing.
Because I was, she knew I like DJ'd and stuff. And she liked music, and then I don't know. But I just had a lot of good conversations. I would see her around town, because I work in town in the same town, and I would see her on the street and stuff. So.
That's awesome.
Just developing relationships again, because it's not just this.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm looking personally. I'm going to try to look for something to do myself, because I felt.
Are you trying to figure out right now what you're going to do in 10 days?
Well, I'm trying to be. I think I do. I can always pray more. I get it, and we're going to give up these things that we give up every year, but the almsgiving, I want to do something different.
Something cool.
Something made, because it was cool. I used to bring Avery on a lot of the Wednesdays.
She would bring our kids.
She would come to the community.
And that's a cool part. I think, like as a family, you get to do, like, all of a sudden Lent isn't just about you, but it's also about you guys as the parents. As a couple, but then also as the parents, like transforming your whole family as a family unit. I think that's really neat.
Yeah.
Yes, we got to come up with something cool. Maybe we'll ask the kids what they want to do, and then we'll try to.
It's just so hard with COVID, with rules and stuff on like what you can and can't do, and where you can volunteer and things like that.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Yeah. I'd love to go to another country and build a house. That's what I want.
I'm the least handy person ever.
I know.
Like building a house.
Here, hold these boards. Paint a wall.
Yeah, I can paint. That's about the extent of anything I'm going to build. No one would want to live in anything I would build. I can't put a table together right without it falling down.
Oh, I'm more handy than Bob is.
Yeah, that's not.
That doesn't say anything.
Yeah. I'm not at all.
The theology teacher / principal is the handy one in the house.
Yes.
Yeah, not at all. No. I have zero interest in it. So
that's great.
Well, I guess that's about. I mean, we're pretty much wrapping up. We've done a lot about prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, forgiveness,
right homilies. There's so much covered in the episode. I love it.
It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I love it. No, we appreciate it.
It was great being with you guys. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah.
No, thanks for coming.
A lot of fun.
Thanks for coming and
so
dealing with. Being in our family, it was a little wild when he first got here. The kids were so amped up.
They're so excited.
They were so excited.
Like I said, I'm the oldest of 8. They're
like, I know him. Like, Father Declan's coming. Yeah, so that's awesome.
Playing Mario Kart against the kids. It was great.
I beat them both.
Yes.
I'm a little competitive.
They don't really
I'm sorry.
play video games very often. We don't allow them to play very much, so they're not good at it.
The youngest was so proud. He was in 12th place, but that was last place. I couldn't break it to him. I was like, way to go, buddy.
I hardly ever die in this game. You don't really ever get under 12th place.
He had fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's what matters.
Oh, so this Lent. So let's try to find some more ways to pray, fast, and what are you going to add other than we're going to do TV?
No TV, no social media.
No social media, and then we'll figure some.
And then I have all the other things. No. Drinking sugar. Like, I'm gonna do my Mag 90 like hardcore.
Get full into it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I'm definitely the social media, the scroll thing for me is going to be the big one, and then also the fasting. The almsgiving, I'm with you. I'm still thinking good thing I have 10 days because it's like, yeah, I could give a little more money, but that's not going to transform who I am. I don't think. I need to like, and the problem is my job is serve, like, and that's where it's like we can justify ourselves like,
that's hard.
I serve all the time, but no, that's my job. So I need to figure out ways in which I can be creative myself.
Mine is time. I'm so bogged down. I barely have time
to do those
to do anything. Yeah. But I would like to, have more encounters with others that.
We'll figure something out. Let's brainstorm. Yeah. We'll figure something out. Awesome. Well, all right. Well, you want to end us with a prayer, Father?
Sure. Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Lord God, we thank you for gathering us together this evening. I ask you to bless Katie and Bobby and their whole family. We ask you especially to bless the ministry they have here with the Catholic couple, that it may help people encounter Christ in a more powerful way. I ask you to bless all those who are listening to this podcast, that they may feel the transformative power of God, especially as we enter into this Lenten season. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
All right. All right. Thanks, Father, for joining us. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you could, like it, share it, and if you're subscribe it, and give us a 5-star review. We'd enjoy it.
All the things.
All the things. Awesome. Thanks, and have a good night.